Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Laura, and welcome to my channel. Today's video is all about moving. So if you're interested in knowing what you need to do to move from one state to another, then definitely stay tuned for this video. Alright guys, so as you know, I recently moved from Kansas to Texas. This is not the first time that I've moved from one state to another. This all started in 2006 when I decided that I wanted to go to college in Georgia. So I moved from Texas to Georgia, and then I moved from Georgia to Virginia, then from Virginia back to Texas, from Texas to Kansas, then from Kansas back to Texas. So needless to say, this isn't my first rodeo, but I do have some tips and tricks on what you need to know in order to move from one state to another successfully. Now, luckily for me, one of the main things that really helped me to move and to decide where I was moving was work. I've always been relocated from place to place because of my job, with the exception of moving from Texas to Georgia, which is obviously my choice because Georgia is where I went to school. But there are some things that you obviously definitely need to know in your preparation. The first thing you need to do is be prepared. You need to be prepared. So I've taken some notes so that I don't get off track, because y'all know how I do. You need to do your research. Determine where is it that I want to move. So if you're like me and knew that, you know, where you had to go, then that decision is a little easier because the steps have already been taken in determining where you're going. So then you have to find out, where am I going to live? You need to find a place to live. When I was moving from Kansas back to Texas, I knew that I wanted to be kind of close to where I had lived previously. So I knew that I wanted to live in a town, like a little suburb of Dallas called Mesquite. And Mesquite is just east of Dallas. I knew I wanted to live there because that's where I had lived previous to my move. I also knew that I was moving here with no job. Because we were laid off, I wanted to make sure that I would move somewhere that I could afford, even if I didn't know when I was going to be getting another job. So that was very, very important for me, to find something that was pretty reasonable for my budget. And so I knew that in the area I wanted to live in were some apartment complexes, because I had done some research in that area a little bit before when I was moving to this area about 3 years ago. And make sure that your budget is appropriate for that area. Because I know when I lived in Wichita, when I moved there to Kansas, I lived in downtown. And in Wichita, downtown is very reasonable. Like, my apartment was $750 a month. And I'll insert a clip right now of just like the day that I moved into my apartment in Wichita last year. All a bad bitch need is a cake. So as you can see, it's a pretty nice apartment and was $750 downtown. You can't really beat that. But in Dallas, you're not gonna find an apartment downtown for $750. And if you want something pretty decent, you're not gonna find anything. I don't wanna say anything, because you can find an apartment for $750, but it's not gonna be in a desired neighborhood, more than likely. It's gonna probably be, I don't know. I wouldn't stay in a $750 apartment in Dallas, and that's just because I know what $750 would get me in Dallas, and that's not what I want. So just make sure you know where you want to stay, or where you want to live, how much you want to pay, and kind of know the neighborhood. Take a look at the neighborhood. You can always go online. I'll leave some links down in the description box on websites that you can go to determine like crime rate and statistics for the area that you're interested in moving in. You can also always go to a data office, like a crime analytics office. So you can always reach out to that department, and they can send you information based on the crime rate of the city or area that you're in. Fun fact from 911. One of the hardest parts for me was actually finding a place to live. As you know, right now we're going through a global pandemic, and so traveling has not been the easiest to do these days. Luckily for me, the day that we got laid off, I had already plans on coming to Dallas because so we got laid off on the 12th, and the 13th was the anniversary of my father's death. And so I had made plans to take off of work on that Friday and leave to go to Dallas on that Thursday anyway. So when we got laid off, I just was like, okay, I'm gonna go to Dallas and just stay for a while. So I knew then that day that I was not gonna be staying in Kansas because there was nothing in Kansas for me. I literally went there for work, and then that, was an epic fail. So when I came home for my dad's anniversary, I just decided to stay here a little bit extra. So I was initially supposed to leave on Sunday to come back to Wichita, but it was no point in that anymore. So I stayed about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks that time. In Dallas. And so what I did was I was able to go around to the neighborhood that I knew I wanted to live in, and write down the apartment complex because all of them were closed. They were only doing virtual tours and things like that. So that pretty much sucked ass. FYI, moving during the pandemic is not the easiest thing to do for sure. But I was able to write down the names of the apartment complexes that I was interested in moving in. I drove around all of those complexes. So if you're able to do that, then that is ideal because you can see the neighborhood. I always like to drive around during the day and at night to see what's happening during the day and what's popping at night. Because some areas are very different just depending on what time of day it is. So definitely, if you have the opportunity to do that, definitely do so. Once I found the apartment complex that I was interested in, I went home and I came home and I did my research. So one of the things that I did was went to all of their websites to see what the units looks like on the inside. And that's very important to me. So for me personally, I enjoy an open space. And so when I say an open space, I mean an apartment that has space in it. I don't necessarily need the whole open floor plan concept. That's nice, but I want space. Like, I want to have room to entertain. I want to have room if I decide that I want to, put up an air mattress and sleep in the living room. I want that option available for me. So I am definitely the type that goes for space over amenities or upgrades. And so my apartment now is not super upgraded, as you can tell. Like, I have the popcorn ceilings and such, but I have a lot of space. I have a 3-piece sectional couch in my living room. And then I have plenty of space with a big screen and the dining room area that I'm converting to an office. My kitchen is a decent size. My bedroom, closet, restroom. I'm happy with what I have, but that's because that's okay with me. You're different, so make sure that you get what you want. Like, my apartment is very much budget friendly because, like I said, I didn't have a job coming here. So I wanted to be sure that I could live somewhere and afford it. Now, it is not $750, but it's more of around the $900 to $1,000 price range, which in Mesquite is pretty good outside of Dallas, about 15 minutes from downtown. So I'm really happy with that. I was able to go online, speak with the management company. They actually were able to send me some tours of the apartment, and that's important. I always ask what upgrades your apartment comes with because you want to know those things moving in ahead of time. So I asked my complex what my upgrades were, and they could not tell me, which was peculiar. I'm like, wait, what? So you definitely need to just kind of know what you're going into. One of the things that's also important when moving is documentation. There are a lot of different things that you need in order to qualify to move into an apartment. And so you need to have those things together ahead of time. So one of the things you need is proof of income. If you are like me and got laid off from work, you should have, your check stubs and things like that to kind of carry you through. So you should be fine. But you have to have proof of income. And typically, most apartment complexes like you to have 2.5 to 3 times income versus the rent. So if my rent is $500 a month, they expect me to have income of at least $1,500 a month. That way they know that I can actually pay the rent. And that's also another thing when you're looking at budgets. Like, obviously you need to know, can I afford to live here? But one of those things that goes back with the budgeting is make sure you budget for your utilities. Like, most of the time when you move, you have to pay to terminate your contract where you are, and then sometimes you may have to pay a deposit for your new utility service for your new contract. So it's really important to budget monies for those things. So when I moved out of my apartment, I had to pay like my last electricity bill, my last cable or internet bill. I had to pay my last water bill. I had to actually pay a reletting fee because I broke my lease because it was less than a year that I had been in Wichita. So I had to break my lease So I had to pay pretty much like a full month's rent, even though I didn't live there. You want to make sure you do those things and do them right because you want to be able to get a place to live in the future. I also determine or find out what utilities you're responsible for in your new place. So at my old place, I didn't have to pay water, I think. Yeah, I didn't have to pay water. But at my new place, I do have to pay water, and the water is allocated. So it's allocated between your buildings, and then divided by the number of people that live in your apartment. So it's a whole hot mess-a-thon. So my water bill might be $60 a month, and I don't use $60 a month worth of water. So that sucks ass, but it's okay. At least I have water running, you know what I mean? So also do your math or do your research when it comes to electricity companies. I know that in Kansas, they only have one electric provider. So that was easy for me. I just signed up with the company that they have for Wichita. But here in Texas, you have options. There's always an option here. So you can choose to go with the provider of your choice. And some of them have really good deals, and some of them have deals that think that they're good. And so you definitely need to know beforehand or determine, what it is that you're going to be doing. Then we've prepared ourselves. We've found a place to live. We've paid all of our monies, our deposits, and all of that stuff. So now it's time to pack. It's time to pack, it's time to clean, and it's time to get out of Dodge. How the heck do you do that? Well, my friends, I like to think of myself as a packing connoisseur, kind of like a guru of such. Because I feel my job that I had before for about 8 years, I felt like a nomad. And if you don't know, a nomad is a person that moves from place to place or travels from place to place. I felt so nomadic just because I moved after 3 years and then after 1 year, and then it just was a lot. So I'm pretty good with packing and cleaning and packing and living in that space while you're still packed and cleaning it and getting your deposit back, because you got to get that deposit back. So important to do. I'm actually going to be doing a series on that, or a video on packing and cleaning together. So I won't go into it much in this video, but I will say that when you are packing, it is so important to not pack stuff that you don't need to take with you. I repeat, do not pack things that you don't need to take with you, such as, I have a general rule of thumb, that if I have not worn it or used it in a year, that I don't need it anymore and I don't deal with it. I throw it away. Unless it's something of family sentiment or of sentimental value, I get rid of it because I'm just going to take that stuff to the new place, and it's going to sit there for another year and then another year, and then I'm moving it and packing it up every time I move. And I don't like to do that. So just make sure that you're purging your things, going through things that you don't need. And like I said, my general rule of thumb is if I haven't used it in that year, I don't need it. But again, like I said, I have another video that I'm doing completely dedicated to packing and cleaning. So definitely stay tuned for that. All right, guys, so it's moving day. You've done all your research. You found your spots. You've packed up your stuff. You cleaned up your apartment. You got your deposit back. And now it's time to move into your new place. Man, that is the most exciting part of all of it. For me, I know it was because of the way that I kind of had to leave Kansas. It was like refreshing. It was a breath of fresh air. I was so excited that day, and then it rained. The fuck? So I was pretty pissed. But the way that I set my move up was pretty easy for me. You do what works best for you. Again, this is your own decision. This is your move. So you have to do what works for you. So I'm going to break down to you how I moved, the steps that I took to actually move out of one place to another. I'll tell you what I did, and then probably give you a couple of other options if that doesn't work for you. So I knew that I know these things going off of the bat. I know I can drive a truck, but I've only driven like no truck longer than 12 feet. So I know that I need a truck between 10 and 12 feet. I also know that I am not going to tow my car on the back of the truck because I just don't do that. I'm not comfortable with that. And driving from Kansas to Texas, that's just not something I wanted to do. So I knew that I wanted to have an auto transporter to transport my car from Wichita to Dallas. And so since that's a pretty straight shot, I did that when I moved from Texas to Kansas. So I already had the experience and the knowledge of it. So what I did is I went online and I found an auto transporter, and I got a few quotes, and the quote that I went with initially was $325 to transport my vehicle from Wichita to Dallas on one of those trucks. I'll insert a picture right here so that you guys can see what an auto transporter looks like. I'm sure everyone has seen them and just didn't really know, oh, those are other people's cars and not like new cars and stuff like that. So that was the initial plan. And then what I also did is went to movinghelp.com. I'll put that right here as well as down in the description box. If you ever need help moving, like people to load you up and people to unload you when you get there, go to movinghelp.com. They are and have been in all of my moves the most reasonably priced individuals. So I went to movinghelp.com because I knew I was driving and I knew I didn't need help. I knew I wasn't gonna load the stuff up or unload it. So I knew I needed help. I found some people to load my things up in Wichita, which happened to be the same guys that unloaded it when I moved there. So I was very familiar with them. They were familiar with me as well. So it just worked out great. Then once I was able to look for a place here in Mesquite to unload my things, and I found a place, and I think for one company in Wichita I paid $150. I always tip my movers. Like, I moved from the 3rd floor and then I moved to the 3rd floor. So make sure you tip those guys because that's a lot. Yes, so I spent like $150 on the loaders, and then I spent $165 on the unloaders once I got here. I tipped the guys, the unloaders here in Dallas, a little less because it's not that they were bad or anything like that, because they weren't. But they just weren't great. But they finished within the time. They got tipped. They just didn't get tipped hefty. And then, so they got everything unloaded. And then the last thing, guys, and probably most important, unpack your stuff. Unpack your things. Like, that is so important. because moving is already stressful. Moving is already a lot. And the last thing you want to do is wake up every morning with boxes everywhere. Wake up every morning feeling like, where am I? Or wake up every morning just like, oh, I cannot do this anymore. So whether you need to assemble a group of friends, a group of family members, anything, unpack your stuff. Whether you need to drink you a Red Bull and get it popping, then get it popping. You have to unpack. Like, that's what I did. I got here, my movers came here on a Saturday afternoon at like 1. I had already been in here that morning since 10, so I was able to line the cabinets with the shelf liners and just kind of clean up everything how I wanted it to be before my things got here. I did all of those things, and then once my truck came, the guys unloaded everything, and then once they left, I just started unpacking. My friend my friend was here. He helped me. He put my couch together, put my bed together. We put the pictures up on the walls. We did everything. Like, we got the kitchen done that night. So the living room, the kitchen, my bedroom was done the first night. So then the second day, on Sunday morning, I woke up, I finished everything. I was done unpacking before noon on Sunday. Now, I have a 1-bedroom apartment, and I have enough things that it would take me a minute, but I really focused, guys, because I didn't want to have to wake up 2 days in a row feeling like I had no idea where I was. And it worked. It was so beneficial for me. I love my apartment, and every day I wake up like, this feels like home now. And I feel much better internally because I know that that is done, and there's one more check mark off of the list. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that now. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that now. Also, press that post notification bell so that you can be notified every time I drop a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested in more videos like this, please let me know down in the comments below. Also, remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. It's all free. And tell a friend. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great day and be safe out there in these streets.